going on, everybody? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2017. It's a brand new year. Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to get all these segments started. I know I've been talking about it for a while, but today is going to be a very special day because we have a special guest in the house, Mr. Michael J. Seaberry. You want to tell us all a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Michael J. Seaberry. I am the owner and founder of Fearless Flying, which is a consulting and motivating company. So I do motivational speeches, also do educational consulting for diversity issues, cultural competency, and things like that. Also, I'm a writer, published author of The Mississippi Crying, which is a book, a collection of poems and stories of healing for those who are social justice advocates, people who just are out in the community doing any sort of community work for you to be able to heal yourself while you're also healing others as well. That's me. I'm also a doctoral student at LSU. That counts. So I'm a second year doctoral student here in the Educational Leadership Program.
That's amazing, Mike, and we're so happy to have you here. So can you
Thank
talk
you.
to us a little bit about your book, your website, because I mean it's very popular, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not heard about the Mississippi Crying, so want to tell us a little bit about your book and
Sure. Thank you for the kudos on that. So the book is called The Mississippi Crying. As I said, it's a collection of poems and stories of healing. This is like my baby, in a sense. Essentially, it's my baby, and I have been working on it for months and months and months, and I'm really glad that it finally came out. It previewed or premiered on Thanksgiving Day. In 2016, and it has been doing pretty well. I've been getting a lot of emails and phone calls and Facebook messages about it, which is very exciting. But as I said, it is designed for people to go through the healing process. So it actually starts off with a lot of things that the Black community has gone through. The first chapter being the flood and Hurricane Katrina, the Great Flood of 2016, things like that. And then the second chapter goes into more of community issues dealing with institutions of the community. So education, police, all sorts of things that sort of surround our community. And then the third and fourth chapter go into the healing process. So the third chapter is about love and how do you find yourself in this healing process? How do you love yourself and how do you love others as well? And then the last chapter talks about how do we move forward in the future? So how do we look at our future children, our future institutions, our future mindsets, all of those things, and how do we move forward as a community as well?
That's amazing.
Thank you.
We're definitely going to get more into conversations about Michael's book. But today's segment, everybody, is going to be My Confidence is Black Intelligence.
Yes.
So the way that I want to start this off, Michael, is with the quote, "The basic tenet of Black consciousness is that the Black man must reject all value systems that seek to make him a foreigner in the country of his birth and reduce his basic human dignity," by Steve Biko. So when you hear that quote, what comes to mind?
So much comes to mind when I hear that. The first thing that pops in my mind, and I was kind of reading it here as well, is, if I can find it, the basic tenet of, so Black consciousness is the first thing that really pops out in that quote, and talking about how, because that's something that's extremely important, especially in today's time where we have to really be conscious of a lot of things that are going on, conscious of ourselves in particular, also because Black intelligence is extremely important. And so growing up in certain communities, growing up in certain schools, certain neighborhoods and whatnot, you see a lot of Black intelligence in different aspects. And so that consciousness comes out in those forms where you're able to be conscious about who your parents are and why they have the things that they have, why they do the things that they do. And then conscious about who you are as a person and why you do the things that you do. And that consciousness essentially teaches you about the rest of your community. The other important thing that's in that quote is that the Black man must reject all value systems. And of course, there's a little bit after that, but just to focus on that or hone in on that one part, that is powerful to say, just that one moment where you literally label things as value systems. Because if we think of value, we put things in a hierarchy once they have value, right? So something is a little bit more valuable than something else, or something maybe not as valuable as what we're holding in our hands. And so when you look at how Black men have to reject value systems, we have to reject things that have been placed in our lives as hierarchies. And so we have to reject that my education may not be as good as somebody else's education, or my neighborhood may not be as valuable as somebody else's neighborhood, or things like that. And once we start to reject those mindsets and
Mm-hmm.
reject those systems, that's when we can truly have change and truly have consciousness, as the quote is saying as well. And then the end of it saying that after we reject those value systems, then we can realize that these systems are putting us in a place, it says, to make him a foreigner in the country of his birth and reduce his basic human dignity. Once we reject those value systems, we essentially reject a lot of things that have happened to us in the past. And so, like, for example, being labeled as three-fifths human is
Mm-hmm.
that basic human dignity that we're looking for, or that the community is looking for. And so when we're able to reject those systems, when we're able to have black consciousness and have intelligence, we're rejecting all of those things that label us as less than. And that value system is no longer there and everything is equal or more equitable. Maybe not equal quite yet, but it'll be more equitable in that sense.
Amen to that. And that was just the quote, and I feel like we've already gotten into so much about Black intelligence.
Good,
And
good, yeah.
just a funny side note, which is really interesting. Everybody knows me on Instagram, hashtag Simply Confident, and Michael's hashtag is Fearlessly Fridays, and it's so interesting because today's segment is on a Friday. So
Yes.
it's kind of like when Simply Confident meets Fearless Fridays, right? All
The
right.
perfect matchup.
It really is. All right, Michael. So now I want to jump into some questions, and definitely feel free to talk about some elements of your book and how you use a quote to answer these questions as
Okay,
well.
yeah.
The first question is, what does Black intelligence look like in African American men?
Mm. That is such a great question. And it's so layered as well. There could be so many answers to this. For me, black intelligence looks like, how do I I'm trying to figure out how I want to put this into words, but black intelligence looks like the everyday black man. And
Mm-hmm.
I say that because a lot of times we tend to label black intelligence as those who win Tony Awards, those who win Academy Awards, Golden Globes, or have the best rap albums, and this and that. And while that is intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, that is black intelligence, I also don't want to negate the fact that the everyday black man who walks around and takes care of his family and
Mm-hmm.
goes to work and pays for his car and does the everyday normal duties that we do is
Right.
what black intelligence is. The person who can wake up every morning and forget that the world is against them, or even remember that the world is against them,
Mm-hmm.
and still keep pushing is black intelligence. And so a lot of times we forget that. But even so, in my life, I'll give you an example of black intelligence. I think that the people who, so I'm going into education and
Mm-hmm.
getting my PhD in educational leadership. And so black intelligence in that aspect for me are people who are able to mold and shape other people who can go out and change the world like that. So
Mm-hmm.
black men who work at colleges and universities, because a lot of times you have students who come into some colleges or some universities and they never see a black man who looks like them, who acts like them, who may be from their same neighborhood, working in an institution like LSU or like Xavier or like Mississippi State or whatever school you want to name.
Mm-hmm.
But these students come in and they say, oh my gosh, there's a black man who is doing excellent things, who is molding and mentoring and shaping other young black men at this school, who has a family, who owns a house and a car and all of these things. And to them, that's black intelligence. And that's what they see and that's what they know. And so for me as well, because that's the field that I'm in, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I know as black intelligence also.
Definitely. And I respect that answer so much. And something that it made me think about is the quote that all superheroes aren't in capes.
Yes, absolutely. That is
So
so true.
how can you relate that quote to your answer in a sense, or just in Black intelligence?
Oh my
overall?
gosh, I can give you so many personal anecdotes on how people have been, especially black men, have been my superheroes, and they don't wear capes on a regular day. Now, if they did, hey, I mean, come to work in a cape if
Right.
you want, that's fine. But I can literally name specific people for you who have been my superheroes, who have done things beyond what I've asked them, whether it's in an educational sense, a religious sense, a personal life sense, whatever it is, that have saved my life
Mm-hmm.
on multiple occasions. And so, I mean, that in itself shows that not all superheroes wear capes.
That's true. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our second question to Michael is, where does intelligence start? What is the origin? Where does it come from to you?
Such deep questions. Oh gosh, that's great. I would say, and you're asking specifically black intelligence in
Mhm.
black males.
Black intelligence overall, but
Overall.
let's just specify in Black males right
Okay, so I think overall, black intelligence starts in childhood. And I say that because of role models and mentors that you may have as a child, but also because a lot of literature that I think now we're starting to get more into the children's books where they can see themselves in the literature, and they see like Doc McStuffins. They're maybe reading a book about this black woman who's a doctor, and they
Right.
see this intelligence at the age of 3 or 4 or
Mm-hmm.
something, and that starts to spark things in their minds as well. Or they see Beyonce as a teenager, or they see Oprah Winfrey, and all the big names that are there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But also the I guess not little people, not placing value on them, but people who are not as mainstream, who may be in their cities, like Sharon Broom here in Baton Rouge as mayor president, or they may see people who work at LSU like Dr. Shonda Allen Mitchell, and things like that. And so at a young age, you start to formulate these ideas of this is what being black means, and not necessarily what you see on TV or in the media, but at a young age, you start to form those layers of being black or black intelligence means that I need to know my literature. It means that I need to, take care of myself, take care of my family, and take care of myself being one of the most important parts.
Definitely.
And then take care of my family, take care of my friends and my community and whatnot. And as you see that as a child, that all starts to manifest when you become older. It's sort of like the saying, or not even a saying, but it's like when your parents tell you, oh, when you get older, you're going to hear my voice. Even though you're not listening to me now, you're going to remember these things when you get older.
Right.
And we all know we start to sound like our parents when we get older.
Right.
And so it's the exact same when you're a child and you hear all of this intelligence talk, or you hear about the things that we're doing in the community or that older people are doing in the community. You remember that. And when you're in your 20s or 30s and something comes up with you, or you're having your own kids or whatever it is, you remember the things that you went through as a child and the things that you learned as a child, and that intelligence starts to just come back to you like that. And in that moment, you're like, oh, this is what it was. This is what they meant when they were quoting James Baldwin and Audre Lorde and all of these, intelligent scholars when I was younger and whatnot. And so as that comes back, you start to see that manifestation of that intelligence. I also think that not only does it start as a child, or that it comes from childhood, but its origin comes from, how do I put this? The origin of black intelligence comes from the oppression of the black community. And not, getting too detailed into that, because that could be a whole conversation in itself.
Right.
But that comes from, black people not being able to be intelligent, physically, being held back from being intelligent, or being locked away from books, or not having access to resources and whatnot, where they had to start creating their own systems, or even finding access to these resources some sort of way. And that drive for intelligence, that drive for, I have to find this because I'm not allowed to find it. That means I need to go out and get it. I need to go out and search for it. That has stuck in our community for decades and centuries.
And just something about what you just said made me think about a scene from the movie Hidden Figures, which I just saw this weekend. It was great. Make sure you all go check it out.
Yeah.
There was a particular scene in the movie where Dorothy Vaughan, who was one of the most notable African American women in charge of a lot of space missions back in NASA. Right. There was a particular scene in the movie where she wanted to go to a library to get some information about a project that she was working on, but she was not allowed to do that because of the color of her skin. So it just made me think about something that you said, like black intelligence starts with us not being able to get access to the resources that we've had, the resources that others have had who are different skin colors than us. And it also made me think about, I'm not sure if you all remember, like when me and Chassie shot a segment about a year ago where we talked about like little girls getting multi-million-dollar deals for like making her own lemonade at Soul Foods. Like black intelligence starts at such a young age is my point that I'm getting at. Our next question for Michael is, what is one strength and one weakness about black male?
I knew this question was going to come up, and I've been pondering, what I would say. And so honestly, to be honest, look at that. Shout out to the lights changing. To be honest, one thing that I came up with, and it's going to be my answer, but I've been trying to formulate how I wanted to say it, because it sounds funny when I say it out loud. But I think black male's strength and black male's weakness is strength. And I guess that could be deep, huh? And so I hope everybody understands what I'm saying when I say that. But to give you a quick context, is that we have to be strong, like point blank period. Like black males have to be strong, no matter what. We're expected to be to not have emotions. We're expected to be hypersexualized. We're expected to be the leaders of families, to be, the physical strong guys in whatever group that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And that strength is our strength,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, we are strong in a lot of situations. 99.9% of the time, I would say,
right.
we are strong. And so that is a strength that we can carry on no matter what. You can, take everything away from us and we're still going to carry on. But at the same time, our weakness is that we're too strong sometimes. And, we forget that it's okay to cry. Or we forget that Black intelligence doesn't have to look like feminized, or it's not a feminine characteristic to have Black intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Or, we forget that sometimes our wife or our significant other or whoever can sometimes take the lead. And that be okay. We don't always have to be the lead of everything. Or we forget that if we don't have money, it's okay. We're going to come up on money in a little bit,
Right.
That it's okay to have these moments of weakness every now and then. And so that strength is our strength and our weakness.
That is so deep. I just feel like the more I keep asking these questions, like I'm not even sure like what I'm getting. Everyone from Michael, it is just so surreal.
Man.
And Michael, our last question before we get back to your book, because I definitely want to know more about
Sure, yeah.
The last question is, how can we push for Black intelligence in today's society?
My goodness, so many ways. I would say, and this is actually something, so how Fearless Fridays crosses with Simply Confident.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that actually today during my segment, I talked about how we can invest in our purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so one way that is extremely important for us to grow Black intelligence is to grow ourselves. And so I think a lot of times we think of Black intelligence or growing the Black community in general means that, we have to patronize all Black businesses. And so all the things I'm saying are good things. I'm not saying anything bad about this. Yes, patronize Black businesses, buy Black and, go see the Black movies and support the Black actors or, whatever it is. Do those things. That is important because we do need to do it in mainstream media as well. But what's most important is that we support ourselves. And so by investing in yourself, by reading more literature about your own history or about whatever it is that you want to do. So, I mean, for example, with Hidden Figures, people who want to go into the space industry or aeronautics or whatever it is that goes along with that industry, you have to know the literature. Right. And a lot of times we think Black intelligence and we think, I already got it because I know how to dress the part.
Right.
I know a little bit about space aeronautics or space stations or whatever. And then we want to go to the interview and when they ask us about, in 1690, who designed whatever part, we're like, we don't know because we didn't read the literature. And that's one of the downfalls of this generation or of today's time is that, we have to stay focused in whatever that is that we want to do. And so I think, investing into yourself by reading or by just devoting time to whatever it is that you want to do, that shows Black intelligence. Because when you step out onto social media, you step into an interview, you step out into the public, people automatically know that guy knows his stuff. That guy reads, that guy stays up on, or that woman, whoever, stays up on, the happenings, the now, the media, the news, and all of that, and they remain on top of it. And so nobody's ever going to question your credibility. They're never going to doubt your credibility, and that is what Black intelligence can look like today.
That is amazing, and that actually concludes our question portion of today's segment because I'm excited to get into this final idea and topic that we're about to talk about before we close out. And Michael, what that is, I just want to know briefly, like, just tell us a little bit about your book. And I hear like there's some blank pages in there for like the readers to interact with.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Fearless Fridays and how to subscribe to your website. Like, fill us in on the world of Michael J. Seaberry.
Okay, I'll tell you about all of that. So the first thing I'll start with is the website because that'll bring me to everything else. But if you go to www.mjseaberry.com, and that's MJSEABERRY.com, you will find everything that Michael J. Seaberry does. So all of the services that I offer as far as consulting is on there and motivational speaking. You'll see a list of all the places I've been and things I've done and things I've spoken about, workshops that you can choose from and whatnot. And then you'll also see links to Fearless Fridays. So the company is called Fearless Flying, which comes from my quote that I came up with in college, actually. And that quote is, in order to fearlessly fly, you must first trust yourself. In order to trust yourself, you must first know who you are. And so I base everything that I do off of that quote. So I start most of my speeches off of on who are you, who are you, and what do you do, what do you want to do, how do you get to that place in life, and then going from that. Did it?
It's
I'm
all
sorry.
good. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so sorry, I just had a brain moment. And so after you figure out who you are, then you go to the point of how can I trust myself, right? Now that I know who I am, how can I trust myself? And then once you trust yourself, you're able to take that jump. You're able to leap and you're able to say, hey, I'm out here, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to run a 5K if it's something like that, or I'm going to start a new business, or I'm going to go back to school, or whatever it is. And then the book comes into play in the healing segment of all of this. So, in the part of learning who you are, it's important to heal yourself before you can help others. And so, while you're learning who you are, it's a hard process. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's a little, daunting. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it gets emotional. But it's important to be able to heal yourself before you can go out and help others, before you can motivate others, before you can tell others, hey, this is who I am, right? You don't want to present half of yourself to the world.
Exactly.
Right. So we're presenting ourselves to the world every morning, and if I walk out, out of my house and I'm presenting half of myself, am I really giving people what they need, what they want, what I need, and what I want?
Right.
Not necessarily, right? And you know that from Simply Confident. That's what you talk about.
I mean, right, like
yeah. So it's that confidence piece of it, and this helps you get to that. And so to talk more about what you mentioned with the pages and things like that, just to go back, I'll actually show you in the book. So there are a few things about this book that I did purposely that I guess people may sometimes look over or just not notice, but I want you to know that they're purposeful in the book. One, there are no page numbers in the book. So I purposely did that so that people can have their own flowing process of healing. Because I feel like if I'm looking at chapter 1 and I know chapter 1 is 32 pages and I'm only on page 7,
right,
I'm already thinking, gosh, I got to read, so many more pages to get to the end of this. Not necessarily in this book. You read until you feel like stopping. You read until you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm good. I'll take a break or whatever it is. And then, you'll eventually get to the end on your own time. The other thing I did was I left a lot of white space. So if you see on some of the pages, there's a lot of white space that you can see here. Even in the margins, there's lots of white space all throughout the book. And I did that for people to have their own method of healing. So if you need to draw in the margins, if you need to write your own story in the margins, if you need to put teardrops in the margins,
right,
there's space for all of that. Whatever you need it for, there's space for it. And then the last thing that's two last things that's purposeful. None of the poems have titles because I don't want to lead you to any sort of healing process. So I didn't title any of them. I want you to, formulate your own thoughts of each poem. And then there's also note sections in the back of each chapter where you can actually take your own notes, write your own poems, draw another picture if you want to.
Right.
Put contact numbers for helplines like suicide hotlines and things like that. There's all the space in there for you to do that.
That is amazing. And
Thank
it's
you.
just like because be honest, ladies and gentlemen, I still have yet to order my copy, but it is definitely on my list. So, but there's just so many new books that I've heard about involving Black intelligence that I want to order, such as, first off, the Mississippi Crying. There's stories about like the destruction of Black civilization. There's stories about the new Jim Crow. One of my goals this year is just to learn more about what Black intelligence means, and that's the reason why I asked, our special guest, Mr. Michael J. Seaberry, to stop by, because he's someone that I strongly admire and very proud of the book.
Thank you.
And I, of course, I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And Michael, I just want to say thanks so much for being with us today. Is there any comments, any more remarks that you would leave to other young Black intelligent souls out there?
First, I would say thank you for inviting me. This is a huge honor because I do watch Simply Confident, and so I keep up with the hashtag, and I'm always liking the posts and things like that. So I think it's a great honor to be here. Secondly, in terms of Black intelligence, I would say, and as you've mentioned, mixing our two hashtags and shows and companies and brands.
Right.
One, it is extremely important to have Black intelligence. But even beyond that, I know the series is about Black intelligence, but beyond that, looking at the big picture and just remaining confident in what you have right now. So whether it's, a little bit of Black intelligence, if you feel like you don't know that much about it, or if you are just the Black intelligence, be confident in it. Be confident in whatever it is you have. Stay confident, as you always say. Be simply confident. be in that moment and embrace what it is that you have, and that growth will come. That growth will always come if you surround yourself with great people like TJ, like others who are, at whatever institution you're at or whatever city you're in. Surround yourself with people like that, and your intelligence will come. You will understand what Black intelligence is, in just a few moments, a few days, or a few weeks.
Definitely. And I mean, I don't really feel as though there's much else to say. This black intelligence definitely is real. So, looking at this right now, whether you're 5 or 50, 15 or 51, 91, doesn't really matter what the age difference is. Your intelligence of any color is real. We're just speaking from this perspective of black men. By y'all know way we close it out every single week. Stay humble, stay gracious, but always stay
Stay
confident,
confident.
and y'all be blessed.